good evening, and welcome. This is Let's Just Talk with Kim. Of course, I'm Kim, and I have my fabulous co-host Tanya Barry, and we are here with the dynamic duo. Okay, Pastor and Dr. Carol. We are so happily. We actually call Dr. Carol, which is Dr. Yolanda Carroll. We normally lovingly call her Pastor Yo. And of course, we call you Pastor Cornelius, Pastor
Yeah.
Cornelius Carroll. And we are just so excited. Hey, Sharita, we are so excited to have you in here with us this evening to talk about how you balance it all, right? From marriage, ministry, kids, work, life in general.
I
We
love it.
want to talk about all the things. And let me tell you, ladies, we have a great um, two two people who have been through it all. Anything you can think of, they have gone through, and they have been successful in accomplishing all the things that God has allowed them to face and become living and walking testimonies to God's goodness, God's grace, God's mercy, His power, everything. And I couldn't
Yes,
think of
yes,
any
yes,
two
yes.
individuals better to discuss how you balance it all. So remember, with Let's Just Talk with Kim, we're here every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So go ahead, like, subscribe. Make sure you subscribe, people. You know, I'm trying to blow up. I'm on my come up. I told y'all last week I'm on my come
That's
up.
right.
So to get me up, you got to subscribe to my page. So,
Yeah.
Pastor Cornelius, could you please just give us a brief description of who you are so the peoples can know who
So the
we have this
people.
night? Yes.
Yes, yes. Hey, everybody. Hey, everyone. I am so glad to be here. We are both so glad to be here. And as Kim has said, I'm known as just Pastor Yo, or my government name is Yolanda. And so, yeah. And so I am right here with the man of my dreams. I call him my miracle man. My husband Cornelius and I, we were high school sweethearts. We met in high
I
school.
love it.
We went on to date in high school, went to prom, went to college, got married, and here we are. Come June, it'll be 43
Yep,
years.
yep,
Wow.
yep.
43
Amen.
years. I love
Amen.
and I
Amen.
like him. So we've been
That's so
together.
important.
Wait, can you say that
I
again? Because
love
I
that.
don't think the
I,
people in the back heard you.
what for the people in the back, for the people in the back, I love him and I like him, and that's kind of important now because,
Absolutely.
especially with pandemic and us working in closer quarters and stuff, a lot of times you start to learn. I don't know. There's some things we might need to work on, but
All
I
right.
do. He and I, and hopefully we'll talk about differences a little bit as we get a little bit further into the broadcast. But he and I are very, very, very different as far as personalities, as far as likes and things. But when it comes together, we make a pretty good, if I say so myself, a dynamic duo. So
Yep,
this
That's
is
yep.
right.
this is
I love
Cornelius. That's
it. I
Pastor
love it.
C.
Hey, y'all. Thank you for having us on. We're so excited about it. And as my wife said, we've been together really. So we've been married almost 43 years, but we've been together 48 years because we dated
Wow.
during that time. So we kind of got a little time in
Under our
together.
belt.
Yep, yep. And we're still good for the future. We're gonna keep on going, and we just really appreciate you all having us on. And as you said, we've seen a lot of things and done a lot of things, and we're happy to share with you guys tonight. Thank you.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
So we are so
Amen.
excited. So I really one of the things that I think everybody struggles with is how you kind of manage everything, because you got your life, you have your kids, you have whatever entrepreneur idea you may want to develop within your life. You have your family, extended family. Some people are caregivers, some people it's ministry, whether you are a lay person serving, or if you're a servant leader, or you're an officer, be it minister, deacon, or even pastor, as you two. How do y'all manage? Like, y'all have so much. Y'all, not only are they pastors, y'all, they are the founders of their church. So they started with the brick and mortar. You know, they had to
Yep.
find the right foundation to
Yep.
establish. So it's
Yep.
like so much. How do you balance it all?
Let me start. Let me start. We have one of the first things that I want to say, and then I'll let her build on that. But I definitely recognize that this is my first ministry right here,
Mm,
and
Absolutely.
and I like to tell the story that, we've told you how long we've been together. So we were together 7 or 8 years before we had children. Then we had children. Then we had corporate careers. Then we, got into ministry.
mm-hmm,
The children grew up, and then they're on their own. They have children. One of our daughters has children. They have their own careers now. We retired from corporate America. We still are doing ministry together. But when it all comes back, it's me and Yolanda. That's where we started, and
Amen.
that's where we are today. And
mm,
as Babe was saying, a lot of times people work from home together and they say, "Ooh, I don't think I like them." But we started out together, and what we encourage people to do is make sure that you know who you're with, because and that you like who you're with, and that you
mm-hmm,
can communicate with who you're with, because many people aren't able to do that.
mm. Yeah, yeah.
I think, Kim, one of the things, there are so many pieces to that. And when you were calling off all of these things, we actually are doing that. You know, he's a newly published author. He and I both run our own personal mentoring ministries. We both
Mm-hmm,
we're parents to and grandparents. And he and I both are primary caregiver to my 86-year-old mother, those types of things. And then we like to just have fun, just do regular stuff too. I love great jazz music.
Hmm.
He loves golf. He loves fast cars. I love, the luxury cars. We're different as day as night. Our appetites are different. He loves vanilla. I love chocolate. So yeah, it's always, we're gonna have to communicate to be able to get along well. And as far as balance, I just don't know if there's such a thing. I do think that as couples or as people who are dating or as people who are building relationships, I think we probably want to look for harmony,
Hmm.
not
Hmm.
necessarily
Mhm.
balance, but harmony. So, kind of like when you think of a band or an orchestra or something,
mm-hmm,
sometimes you're going to hear the keys louder. Sometimes you'll hear the drums louder.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sometimes you'll hear the strings louder. And so for me, uh, I usually have to just kind of identify a thing and focus on what needs me the most at that time. And then
Mhm.
go with that and just hoping that there will be some harmony within, while I am working through to the very next thing. We've been, as we've said, we've been together a long time and seen some really good experiences, had some great times. God has, our marriage itself is evidence of God's keeping
Hmm.
power.
Hmm. Hmm.
However, we have
Mhm.
had some challenges, and one of the
mm-hmm,
bigger challenges in the last 10 years is that my husband was diagnosed with cancer, with stage 2 cancer. And
mm-hmm,
so we still were pastoring a church. We still were running these ministries. We still were caring for my mom. We were still being grandparents. We still had businesses and still writing a book. And at that time, had started and stopped and started and stopped working on my PhD again.
Hmm.
For it took that's something that God blessed me last year before last, during pandemic, to
mm-hmm,
finish that. But that took 10 years, and I basically had to
mm.
dive in and get it done, because if you don't complete all your coursework during that 10-year period, less than 10 years, you lose all those credit hours and you have to start
Wow.
over again. So there are a lot of ups and downs and different things that we've gone through. But I think communication is going to be key. Asking questions, and then be okay about with differences. I think
Mhm.
differences, and Candice can speak to differences,
Mhm.
about differences not
Right.
being.
Differences are not, don't have to be damning. A lot of times in relationships, like Yolanda said, well, I like cheesecake and she likes pound cake. Well, that might be a bone of contention, but it doesn't have to be damning as long as we respect each other's differences
Mhm,
and
Right.
appreciate that this is who I married, this is who God gave me.
mhm,
And so let's build on that. And one
mhm,
of the things, just a good example for me is that my wife has a very good spirit of discernment.
Mm.
Mine, not so much,
not so
okay?
much.
But long as I lean on her to allow and embrace her spirit of discernment for us and for me, then
Mhm,
it's not a problem. And
mhm,
perhaps maybe I might have a strength that she might not be focused on, and as long as we pull those
mhm,
two things together,
mhm,
then we can help one another and build
mhm.
the relationship. And maybe you want to talk a little bit about
Well, I
complimenting.
wanted to jump in real
Oh,
quick because two
Okay.
key
okay.
things that you said, which I think we need to elaborate more on, is one, communication. Like
Oh
Yes,
you
yes,
yes.
have to talk to one another. If
you
if
have
you
to.
are a team, the
You have
team
to.
can't call plays if they're not communicating. Like the coach has to communicate with the players have to communicate with each other to be an
Absolutely.
effective team. So
Absolutely.
that is so key. Like if we don't talk to one another, we don't dialogue, we never know what the other person is really talking about
And
and or
Mhm.
feeling.
and I
You just want
think
to
Absolutely.
say
too
something?
is so important to not just in the fact that you have to communicate, but I think that you have to be able to um the person you share your life with, you have to be able to share everything with. So you
Mhm,
have
Absolutely.
to be
mhm.
able to talk about, no matter how difficult or whatever, you have to be able to share everything um, free of judgment. It doesn't
Hmm.
mean that
Right,
it's free of consequence, but absolutely free of judgment.
Very good.
right.
Absolutely.
We
Absolutely.
are, we are, as long as we've been together, we're still learning to communicate even better. And I think that's an important piece because we can kind of plan out and say, okay, well, this is good enough. But, in order to be better, in order for me to play my role when it's my time to play lead or hers to play lead, we got to keep going up. And I think that relationships that are most successful have open and honest communication.
Hmm.
Right.
And that, that is more a struggle for me than it is for my wife. But just the fact that I can admit that,
Hmm.
she can help me now, and I'm open rather than, well, don't tell me or don't tell me what I don't know or all that kind of stuff. So it's a growing process, and I think as
Hmm.
long as couples are willing to continue to grow
Hmm.
in our relationship, then we can help each other. So that communication thing is very, very big for us, and we don't always get it right, but we want to get it right. And what we try not to do is hold it against one another when we don't get it right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think also with the communication piece, once we've communicated that what we're feeling, what we're thinking, or what our desires are, and we have settled on that there is some conflict there, that's another C word, conflict resolution. We've got
Hmm.
to communicate, but we also need to work hard at resolving conflicts.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
our one of our empowerment series that we have ongoing that we do, and it's called SIFT, CIFT, and actually our
Mm.
mentor coach, Dr. DC Marshall, helped us flesh this whole program out. And the acronym SIFT, the letter C is communication and conflict resolution.
Hmm.
The second one is I for intimacy, and not just
Mm.
intimate, love making type, but intimacy.
Right.
The person that I'm with, can you see my heart? Can you see my thoughts? Can you feel me, as
Hmm.
they're
Hmm.
saying right now?
Hmm.
Intimacy. And then finances and money. When you think of money, you think of how much, or it's not necessarily who makes the most and who makes the less, but how do you feel about money? How do we treat money? Do we value it? Do we save it? Do we throw it away? Do we give it away? Those types of things. And then there's trust, and not just the fidelity piece, but can I trust you with my dreams? Can I
Mm.
trust you with my heart? Can I trust you with my secrets? Can I
Mm-hmm.
trust you with my
Absolutely.
frailties and my missteps and those types of things? So, um, being in a relationship, be it a couple, married, dating, those types of things, there are so many pieces, so many moving pieces to it, and
Right.
so it's always going to be a journey. You're not going to ever just get there and say, "That's it, I arrived." I don't think.
Right.
Oh, definitely not.
Mhm.
Definitely not. Because you're two unique individuals that are
Mhm.
coming together and trying to balance things and learn more about each other. Because I believe I'll be in the dating realm as well as, courtship and all of that. You never really know someone as deeply as you know them once you confess your vows to them and
Mm-hmm.
once
Absolutely.
you move in with that person. So you
Mhm.
definitely have to learn all of them. And one of the things you mentioned that I hear a lot of couples about is how do you manage the financial aspect? Like you tapped in on it when you spoke about um, the finance. Is not about if one person makes more than the other, but it's
Mhm.
all about how you spend your money. And I think a lot of couples nowadays and singles, that's an issue that we all face because money, you can't live without money.
That's right.
Bills are going to come.
It's a
You
real.
don't need to put all your focus, all everything into money or put money on a pedestal, but you
Yeah,
can't live without it.
it's
So a
important.
lot of times I know some couples that talk about how they don't, my money is still my money,
Mhm.
that kind of concept. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't understand how you make that or come to that decision. Or they like, no matter what, everything is 50-50. So when you mentioned about making more, one person making more money than the other, how is that equal? If
Absolutely.
you're making 100 grand, I'm making 50,
That
Right.
and
can't
we're
work.
still having 50-50 split.
That can't work.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like
Right.
that's always a sticky issue.
Well,
That
that is. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna jump in, and hopefully I won't say take it, steal the thunder. But for us, and it's been a long, long time. And I spent years in my corporate career as a lender for a major financial
Mm,
institution. So I was always behind the computer with dollars, but money was not all. I didn't necessarily value money like I should. And I was not taught. My parents did not teach me uh, good savings habits
mm-hmm,
or
mm-hmm.
good money habits. I started working even when I was in college at UPS. So I started making money. For a 19-year-old working at UPS, back then that was some good money, and I spent it as fast as I could make it.
Right,
My
right.
husband, on the other hand, at that time, my boyfriend was in college working for a moving company and just making the best, he could. But I was always out of money, and he was, pulling up the rear for me to get me gas
Mm-hmm.
money so that I could get back to school and
Right,
things
right.
like that. But as we fast forward, with as to Kim's point is there, in my opinion, and again, and it's worked for us during these years. 50-50, there's no such thing as 50-50.
Mm-mm.
And in relationships with money and in love and all of those other things, there are going to be some points, times when one is given the whole 100
Mhm.
and the other is, finding their way. And then there'll be other times when there may be a little bit closer to in the middle somewhere. However, for us, just because of the way we value money, and again, we communicated it once we realized who was going
Mm-hmm.
to be the most responsible and things like that. But for us, a we have three accounts. One is our main account, that where the mortgage and your financial things that need to be taken care of and everything. And we contribute. I mean, he manages that, and I contribute he's what he's asked and what we've agreed on, and I contribute to that particular fund. And that's where our bills and everything is taken care of. And it is definitely not 50-50. And then for the other account, that's where, I go to DSW and buy the new flip flops, or I go to, Target and buy, $12 worth of magazines or things like that, and stuff for the grandbabies. And then the opposite side, the account that he has, that's where, he is a golfer and he likes to go out, weekly and plays golf. That's where I buy my golf balls. That's where I, pay my tee times. That's where I do that. But the way our household is managed and the way that business can be taken care of and all the, bills are paid on a timely basis, and we've agreed that what we can, what we have and what we're going to do with the amounts that we have. But 50-50, I don't see how that could ever work. And I also know that for us with all these years, as I said, we've been times when I've done extremely well and in my career, and I made bonuses and won trips and things. And so we had a lot more fluid disposable income. And then as we said, there were other times where I wasn't at my best health, and we were just, my husband was caring for me and the girls. And then we went on to talk about, there was a time when he was sick and he had to be off from work, and there's a disability, and those are these types of things. But if you have an understanding early on, and again, communicate, hey, this is where we are, this is what we have, and how can we agree, and even there be some issues, some things that we probably agree to disagree on, but I don't know if we'll get to talk about that on this broadcast or not, but I trust Cornelious to be my covering. I trust him. So as long as he's following God, I'm going to follow him, and I'm going to trust him. But every now and then when he tells me no, and I still don't like it.
I'm so glad you said that, because I say the same thing. I'm an adult. I understand. I can't always have my way. I'm just going to tell you, I'm probably not going to like it, but I'll get over it.
I think one other piece to that, and it's kind of come up a couple of times in several things that we've talked about so far, and that is one of the things that we sometimes see is competition within the relationship. And that's why they were saying that, 50-50 doesn't always work, because sometimes there's a competition. I got to win the argument. I got to have my way with the money. You got to do what I say. All of that is about competition. But if I win, then guess what? Somebody's losing.
Right, right.
We're Team Carroll. So how
Absolutely.
can Team Carroll win and lose at the same time? And so when we think about our money, Scripture says that we should be, two became one. And so it's our money, and we want to make sure that we are moving forward, not just I'm moving forward or just that she's moving forward. And sometimes we have to have a conversation to say, okay, this is what's on the table, or we got this coming up, or we need to make this adjustment. And if we can have that conversation, without competition, then we can come to a good resolution that works for both of us.
And back to Tanya's point, to things. Sometimes we won't always agree on different things. And I tell the story, and if you've heard me talk, you've heard me tell the story about the lamps, and I'll continue to tell the story about the lamps. And one day I was talking to my husband, and I came home and I says, hey, I saw these set of lamps at Star Furniture. I'm gonna grab these lamps and bring them home. And he says, we'll see. And I said, we'll see. He said, yeah, we'll see. And I'm like, we'll see. I got my own money and I got my own job, and I can buy some $500 lamps, and and he just kind of was just still calm, quiet. We'll see. I got mad and I sashayed around here for about 2 days, wasn't talking and slamming things down, and then finally a day or two passed, and I mean, God is healing me. I don't act that way that often now, but this particular time I did. And so I said, he said, Yolanda, can we talk about the lamps? And I was like, okay. And so he sat down and he said, listen, he said, when we were talking about the lamps, he said, when I said we'll see for the lamps, I know you. And I know that if I said yes to the lamps, what I was also needing to be prepared to is to say yes to the leather sofa that you're going to want to go with
Come on
the
now.
lamps. And then the rug that you're going to want to go with the leather sofa that goes with the lamps, and then the end table that needs to. He said, so when I
Yep.
said that, he said it wasn't the $1,100 lamps, it's the $11,000 that I'm going to have to figure out how we can do this, or if we can do this at all. So I need you to, to trust me on it, and give me an opportunity to, to lead us, or to keep us from, sinking and swimming,
Right, right.
sinking or swimming, right? Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yes, it
absolutely.
does. Yes, it does. That
I
was
want to,
very awesome.
I want to just go publicly and just thank my wife for trusting me.
Mm,
Baby, I appreciate that, because a lot of times there are couples that, they, I'm gonna say that when we coach couples, sometimes one of the questions we'll ask is, if this person doesn't change, if they're the way that they are today,
mhm, mhm.
10 years from now, will you guys still be able to be together? And quite often, sometimes we get some real strange looks. Not why, because neither one of us is perfect, right? But are we willing to love and to live with that person and go forward? So, I just want to thank my wife for trusting me. And she said this word that I was hoping that we would get to say. I take great pride in
Mm,
covering my wife and my
Absolutely.
family.
mm,
I take great pride in that. And the fact that she would allow me to, be her covering, because she doesn't have to allow me to. We could be going through, struggling through, but I appreciate that. And that's a very important part. So, we have a biblical, we try to follow what the word says. And I want to lead my family, and I want to provide headship for my family. So
mhm,
sometimes that means maybe I'll be needing to make sacrifices for my family. And, perhaps we'll get into that in a little bit, but I just wanted to say that's a very important part. If we're both striving to be the boss, so to speak, then we will, we'll struggle. So.
And then again, as I think, as Kim said early on, and when for a team to win, there's got to be there's got to be a coach, and there's, you got to want to be able to follow the coach, and
right.
play, and when the quarterback, when the plays are called, there's got to be a sense of order there. And then the bottom
Absolutely.
line is, again, as Kim said earlier, when he wins, she wins. When she wins, he wins. But if, as my husband has said earlier, that if one of us, if there's a win or a lose, then it's a loss.
Mhm, mhm.
You know, does that make
Right.
sense?
Yes, yes,
Absolutely. It makes
absolutely.
great sense. Great sense. So as y'all were developing in your ministry and in your marriage and learning each other, when the kids came, how did that go?
Well, our children, as you can tell, our personalities are very different, and our children are very different. Two sets. I mean, three different personalities. And for us, that was, again, it had to go with communication, and that was a big adjustment. And actually, what ended up happening, I think we kind of talked about it, but it kind of just, I don't know, morphed into this thing where my husband was the primary caretaker of our
Mhm.
girls. And I was, at that time, I was just a working machine. I was on my grind. I wanted to, I just wanted to be Miss Bank of America. And I just wanted to, I wanted to see my name in lights and all of this kind of stuff. And so when the kids came along, we had to, there had to be probably a couple of hard stops and a couple of course corrects, because I had uh, kind of unofficially made my husband the primary caretaker of our girls, including getting them to daycare, including all of this stuff. And he'll tell you now he still teases. For years, he would find a hair barrette in his pocket because he would need a ponytail holder in case their hair the hair came untwisted or the ponytail broke, or he'd need he'd have a hairbrush in his car so he could brush their hair to take them to their their band concert and things like that. So for us, that it took work, and there's a big difference between our children's ages. There's a 5 years between the older and then the middle one, and the baby. We got him when he was 22 months old, and so it's 13 years difference between he and his sister. So our children, that too is part of trying to find some harmony there, and definitely we it's a journey even now. They're grown and on their own. Our son, lives with us. However, he has his job and he takes care of himself and those types of things. But children do something totally different to a relationship, young or not so young.
And, and especially as they become adults, then they begin to take on, or they have their own personalities and ways they want to do things. And it's like, we have to like, wait a minute, we're the parents. And they're like, no, but we're adults too. But we're just blessed that we have a very good relationship with our children. And, but you're right. And I will say this, that we were ready. We were ready when we had children. And we had children probably younger, than couples do today. But we agreed on that, and we wanted to do that. And so, we wanted to put the work in, and we wanted to pour into them. And, it's been a blessing. And we still work together at the church. They're all in the ministry with us. They work in the ministry with us. So it is a good thing. So. But it definitely changes things. But we have to be realistic about life. And I think our family of origin, both of our families of origin, prepared us for that. My wife has 3 siblings, and I have 2, and so both of us are the oldest. And so, kind of maybe God gave us a little head start because we were both leaders in our family. We both were kind of caretakers of our younger siblings, and so that helped us, to be, we think, leaders and to parent our children.
Now, you said you was ready for children. What does that mean? Are you ever ready? Let's talk about that.
Decision. I'll say it like that. We were ready for the decision, baby.
I think when he said that, I think you know how you read the book or you watch it on TV. The couple does this. They do this, and this. So we had, we've gotten married. We've worked, a couple of years. We had bought our first home. We, got good running cars. We were out of our barely get along college cars, and we had our, cars. So we had our professional jobs with insurance, and then we had our, we purchased our home and stuff. And so, quote unquote, the next thing, I guess the next box to check is you're ready for kids. But no, in answer to your question, no, ever ready. And again, as I said, our children, both of them, are different as day and night. How we parent them is totally different. And even now, as adults, how we parent them is totally different. My cousin is here, and we've been visiting, and we've been talking about, just talking about our girls, even today. And she has adult girls, similar ages to ours. And again, they're different as day and night. And I don't think you ever get the parenting thing down.
Never.
No, you ladies may want to speak to that a little bit, but do we ever get the parenting thing down?
I'm still trying to work it out. My son is 28 now. Shocking. He'll be 29. And I I mean, parenting,
Mm-hmm.
even in the 20s,
Mm-hmm.
it's still parenting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm
Absolutely.
always looking forward to the moment,
Mm-hmm.
because they say first they was telling me, oh, when he turned 21, then it was when he turned 25, then it was like now it's well when he
When he
turned
gets
30. I'm
30.
like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
pet, I mean, and that's a balance in and of itself, like how you were mentioning how Pastor C, he was really taking care of things when it came to the children so that you can work. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
good balancing act in and of itself, I'm sure. Because
Mm-hmm.
Pastor C, was you still working at that time as
Yeah,
well?
yes, I was. I was working in corporate America too, but my schedule, I had a little bit more flexibility to get the girls and to
Mm-hmm.
take them to their
Hmm.
things. And, you know,
And then he liked, he's an athlete himself, so he liked taking them to their track meets. And
Mm-hmm.
he's a musician as well, so he liked taking them to their choir concerts and getting them renting their instruments and those types of things. And again, as I said, I was on my grind. I just was just yeah. I'm about to make these
Right,
Benjamins.
right,
I need
right.
to really, you know, make a print with Bank of America. And you learn now, you do all of that, and that doesn't always turn out the way you thought it was too, and you don't always get the recognition that you hoped or that you deserve.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my
um,
parents was the same way because my mom, she was the very ambitious one as well.
mhm,
So like she went back and I think she got her double masters or something like that. Like
mhm,
so she was always driven, 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 driven. So that's
mhm,
my memory. Like we were home with my dad and
mhm.
like my mom don't even know what was going on. Like we tell her now how we was tortured because like all of us. Because I mean, he was definitely the character when it came to meals. You know,
Mhm.
he wanted to be creative.
oh, wow.
He wanted to be a gourmet chef. And we
Uh-oh,
were
uh-oh.
kids. You know what I'm saying? Like the pineapples on the chicken and stuff.
Oh no.
Like, we don't eat that, sir. We're kids. We kids. So like we to this day, none of my siblings, we never liked cereal because anytime we were hungry, my dad would say, go make some cereal.
So no more
And none
cereal.
of us ate. And my mom was like, I didn't know that. I was like, yeah, we was eating cereal a lot. Or because breakfast food was easier to make, we was eating breakfast food for dinner.
Right.
So he would make us pancakes and eggs and stuff. Like
Mhm.
it was just like this whole thing. So, but
Right.
my mom was the same way. She was driven to the kill. I mean, it
Mhm.
wasn't that he wasn't cooking dinner, it's just that we didn't
It
like
was
what he cooked.
it didn't.
So,
Yeah.
and my parents was old school. Well, if you don't like it,
Yep.
you ain't gonna eat it. And
Right.
then my dad would be like, "Well, make yourself some cereal because he's gonna
Right.
eat it."
He at
Mhm.
least gave you that out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he would like, "Oh well, more for
Mhm.
me."
Mhm. Yep. Yep. Exactly.
But
How were
as we
you,
go,
Pastor C, when you was cooking for your kids? Was the meals delightful?
You purchased.
yeah, I did a lot of purchasing of ready to make things.
Okay.
We started discovering going out a little bit.
Our
Hmm.
girls, them, we all still to this day eat out way too much.
Right.
And
Mm.
so the way he took care of us or took care of them would be eating out or purchasing pre-made, because now one of the things, he has a lot of talents, but however, cooking is not one of them. So um, they have a very extensive palate because he enjoys eating too. And so and again, because I was working, I was on my grind, and a lot of times I rode what we would call here, similar to the train or what you guys have up there, but the last one left in downtown Houston at 7. And if
Hmm.
I wasn't done working or getting, trying to get my applications in, getting my clients' loans closed and stuff like that, then I didn't have a way home. And so he and the girls would have to drive the 30 miles from, where we lived and pick me up
Mhm.
and bring me back home. And so even with that, he's still trying to figure out, okay, how do I feed these girls, and then how do I get dinner for her? Because now I got to pick her up. Do I get the dinner? Do I bring it and it's cold when I get her there, or do I pick her up at 7 o'clock at night and then try to feed her and the girls at 8 o'clock at night? So it was a whole lot for him to balance back then. But again, our children, even now, and even their husbands, blame us that our girls really enjoy eating out a whole lot. One, Cornisha, the older of the two, she's a cook, a very creative, a good cook. Shannon, however, does not cook, doesn't prefer to. Luckily, she married a man that cooks, and but both of them, their husbands, blame us that um, they eat. Their palate is very extensive, and they like eating out. And then my son's story is similar to yours, Kim. That he just not necessarily we made him, but he just rather eat pizza, eat cereal than eat asparagus or eat some of the other creative things that we would come up with, or even the restaurants that we go to, the Creole restaurants with, shrimp, etouffee, and crawfish and all that stuff. He just would prefer just, I'll just do cereal or do the romaine noodles, or,
Pizza.
some pizza.
A lot of pizza.
Lots and lots of pizza.
Right, right.
Right now, so
I ended up being the oatmeal girl. Like
Yeah.
I could eat oatmeal morning, noon, and night. It
yeah,
never bothers me. Like
wow.
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
was my comfort. Give me the
Mhm.
oatmeal.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
only issue was after children, I would keep on some of that weight more, and I'm a sugary kind of oatmeal
So you
person.
like
Oh, okay.
your brown
Yes.
sugar and cinnamon and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
that
Like
good
I
stuff.
am. I'm just a sugar, but I used to pile it
Mhm.
in, man, because I
Mhm.
loved sweet.
Wow.
So,
That's so
Mhm.
funny though, like how everybody can come from all these different backgrounds, different areas, and you'd be surprised like the things that you have in common with people
Oh
when
yeah.
you just sit down and have a conversation with someone.
Mhm.
Because it's my mom worked a lot, but my dad did also, but it's so funny because I would spend a lot of time with my dad. Like I was totally a daddy's girl. Every circus, every movie, every ice capade, whatever it was me and my dad always did it together.
Yeah.
And my friends will tease me to this day. One of my friends would say, "Hey, let's all, we'll have brunch or make breakfast at my house." And she'll say, "Well, I have this or this, and I got rice because Tanya's country," she would say all the time for breakfast. But it was my dad. My dad does not do oatmeal, grits, or any of that, but he loves rice. You can have rice with breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
Oh
And
yes.
still to this day, my daughter and I will eat eggs like with our I'm sorry, rice with our eggs
Sure.
and whatever else for breakfast because that's what my dad like. He's
Mhm.
not a excellent cook or anything, but he could make rice and whatever he needed to go with it.
Right.
So that's what we ate all the time. So still to this
Yeah,
day, I do
I
that.
give a big high five to the rice cooker. That
Now he can do that. Now
yeah.
he can get that rice
Push that
cooked,
button.
and he loves rice. So
Yeah, yeah.
when I do cook any meal that I cook here at home, any meal, I always cook rice with the meal because that's one of his favorites. Now
Hmm.
I'm a
mhm.
very good cook, and now
Hmm.
uh, I cook more, but yeah, I love rice and eggs too.
Listen, me too, Sharita.
I do too.
Call
But
me
so
what they
now I cook.
want.
But now I cook more. But I do with every meal that I cook rice just because that is his favorite starch of
Hmm.
Okay.
all time.
Hmm. Yep, yep, yep.
So, what other advice would you have for even singles, married, whatever, of just balancing life and ministry and work? Like, how do you really balance it all?
One of the things I would say to that, Kim, is I think as as we kind of talked about it and look at the list, some of the things we have to decide, what matters the most. And then we also need to determine, my husband uses this term and they use it in corporate America, is it a hill to die for? Is this thing that I have way up here on this priority? Is it really that important? Is it going to really matter? I say next Thursday. Is it going to really matter that next Thursday? So we're trying to meet deadlines at work. Okay, we do need to do that. We're being paid to be the employees and stuff. But we're also trying to be a helpmate. We're a helpmeet. We're trying to have reasonable, responsible conversations with those who we love, who we're important for. Yes, that's going to matter next Thursday. So we're going to need to move that up some on the list. And then some of the things we have to say, is this a hill to die for? I mean, is this going to really, 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 really matter? And again, some things, I personally, I literally, I have a things to do list, and I kind of prioritize them the way I think they should go. And then I'll get to the first three things or so on the list. And then I move those things over to the next day. And then I'll start that list again. And so again, it's a journey. There's no way to get it right. But I would say, try to identify, is this a hill to die for? Is this going to really, really, really matter? Is this going to stop me from breathing? Is this going to stop me from, being my very best self at the end of the night? At the end of the night, when I thought about the things that I did and the things that I accomplished, can I breathe a sigh of relief? I made it, or do I feel like, oh gosh, I, wasted my whole day and I'm still a wreck. Like today
Right.
was a very interesting day for myself and I. We were in a restaurant, my cousin and myself, and a young man rushed in. He had been robbed and he fell on the floor, and then the police run into the to the restaurant, following him, thinking that he was the robber, and we on the floor, and I'm telling my cousin don't move, and it was just like, and I thought just for a moment there, I said, look, it's what's all this that's going on right now. I need to be sure that the people that I love the most know that I love them, and the things that are unimportant, leave them be. Like my grandmother used to say,
Right.
leave that be, leave that where it is. So I think my suggestion would be identify what needs you the most at the time, and then is it a hill to die for? Will it matter? And then at the end of the night, can I breathe a sigh of, okay, I got it done, or oh man, that that was a bust. And that way I can, the next day I can kind of course correct, if that hopefully
Sure.
that's helpful a little bit. What are your thoughts?
So I would add a useful tool that we've kind of implemented really just really even recently is we've started to have a kind of a list of things that we want to, as a household, accomplish or as a couple accomplish. And we go through and we have a very in-depth discussion about those things, write them down, and therefore we know. Now, I know some people that would hear this might say,
It's so
that's so
elementary.
elementary. But if I could tell you, and I'm gonna ask Babe, that has really blessed our going forward, in my opinion, because we know what we're expecting from one another. We know when we expect to get it done, and therefore, and also with me, my memory's not the best. I can check back and say, okay, this I know this is important to my wife, so I drop fewer balls than I used to,
Right.
and so I know that sounds very simplistic, but again, it goes back to conversation, communication. We actually talk about what's important. We do it every other week, and pretty much write it down. And we know those are the things that we want to accomplish. So, you know, on our jobs, we have that.
Mm-hmm.
We have a list of what we intend to accomplish in the quarter or what
Mm-hmm.
have you. And
Mm-hmm.
in our relationship, we've kind of been using that lately, and it really, I think, has helped us
Mm-hmm.
to know what each other is doing,
Mm-hmm.
and it answers some of those unanswered, unspoken questions or unspoken things that that otherwise we'd be guessing, well,
Mhm.
did she really want me to do this first or that first? Or did we
Mm-hmm.
agree that we were going to spend this much? Or, some of those things. So
Mhm.
again, it takes us back to very good communication or better communication, I'll say. And
Mhm.
we're constantly working on that.
Mhm.
So, I could say, okay, babe, just for example, Resurrection Sunday is coming up in 2 Sundays. So we need to make sure we're working on the team that's going to help us.
Mhm.
What are we going to do for the children at the church? So therefore, when we stand before the leaders at the church,
Mhm.
we're on we're on the same page,
Mhm.
and we're not, oh, I didn't know that's what you wanted to do. So I
Mhm.
think that's the thing that kind of helps us, um, you know,
Mhm. And little
also.
things like something as simple as, we got Easter lilies there in the worship center. Just stuff like having it on the list to water the lilies
Hmm.
every week so that they'll still be alive in 2 weeks. So and with even something as like this broadcast, Kim set reminders and
Hmm.
sit.
Mm-hmm.
We knew 4 days ago what the expectation of us was for this, and then there was she made an adjustment with the time or change. She sent a reminder. This is the adjustment. This is the time. So again, lists and having a sense of order. I think it takes a little bit of the pressure off of everybody
Right.
Yes.
involved. And again, it's a work in progress. I just
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
don't
Hmm.
know because we're just so busy. Um, we're so busy and we're taught that everything needs to happen quick, fast,
Right.
and in a hurry.
Hmm.
The microwave, the cars, the
Mhm.
GPS system, everything is quick, 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 fast, and in a hurry. And so to be able to keep up, we've got to be able to come up with some things that work for us. And for us, those things would be things like reminders and lists and things like that.
It's something that both of you talked about a little bit ago that really I think is important to just point out. Like, for one, when Pastor Cornelius, when you were saying, even like making this list, which I think is very, very important. I really appreciate you sharing that. And but you were saying, it may seem so simple. And I think sometimes we just overcomplicate things and we
Hmm.
overlook those things that we assume are simple to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that just
Hmm.
seems like that would be the logical thing to do. Well, that would be your logic. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the next person's logic.
Sure.
So
Right.
I think that that plays into, like, just talking about like effective communication
Mm-hmm.
and having those lists and having order to that. I think
Hmm.
sets you up for success. When you don't do those things, I remember something I got from Dee a long time ago, and she just made a comment like, are you busy or are you productive? And
Right,
that
right,
really
right,
ministered to me. And so
Mm-hmm.
I would try to be very purposeful with my time. And I think that when you are a very busy person, the best way to be productive is to put order to whatever that chaos is
right.
that you have to deal with so that you're not missing even those simple or little things. And even with communication, you know, I'm newly married, but I could say red and he say blue, and we be talking about the same thing.
Right,
And
right.
I said to my older sister who's been married like more than 25 years, I'm like, I didn't really, I hear people say that men and women don't always speak the same language. Like I didn't really understand that was literal sometimes. But
Absolutely.
so I
Literally.
think like you can think that you are being the most effective communicator, but I think it's also important sometimes to just not to assume and to take a moment and say, okay, so what I hear you saying to me is
Right,
Absolutely.
right, right.
because, something as simple as I remember my husband said it a few months ago or something. There was a light on in my car and I needed to get the oil checked. And he said, you need to get your oil changed. And I looked at him, what do you mean I need to get my oil changed? I'm offended by that. You need to take the car to get the oil changed. But then he said to me, like, I was saying, like, actually, he was making a mental note to
A
himself. He
no,
was
Right, right,
yeah,
saying,
right,
you
not
need to get this oil
telling you.
changed, not you need to go do it right now. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
right,
here,
right.
me in my head, I've already had a whole conversation about how he just told me to go get this oil changed.
Mhm,
Right.
So it's
mhm.
so funny. It could be something so simple we blow out of proportion if we don't communicate well with one another. And
Absolutely.
also understand that the person who is your partner is always coming from a place of love and a place that benefits the team. And I think if
Very
you take
good.
a moment to think about that,
Hmm.
then it's not so easy to go off with the wrong idea, or it would make it
Right.
easier to clarify.
Very.
Right, right. We've learned that men and women often communicate differently. And, we've all read the books that say that women say, generally may say 3 to 4 times more words in a day than a man does. But one of the things that kind of has helped us is that we've learned that often men communicate for information and women communicate perhaps to connect. And so sometimes my wife is telling me something, and as a man, I'm listening for, okay, what do I need to do? Or what do I need to tell her to do? Or what's the resolution to her problem, so to speak,
Yes,
which is
absolutely.
offensive in the first place, right?
Hmm.
Because she can figure it out herself. But that's the way I'm listening. And when I stop
Mm-hmm.
listening to always fix either
Hmm.
her problem,
Mm.
or him, then now I can connect,
Yep.
and it has helped our communication style,
Absolutely.
communication effectiveness,
Hmm.
and to understand that, hey, she's just trying to connect. Even
Mm.
when she was sharing about the situation that happened at the restaurant, she
Hmm.
didn't need me to say, well, you shouldn't have done this, or you shouldn't have been there, or you should. She didn't need that from me. What she needed for me to do is to connect with her about a very important moment. And now I'm learning that 40 something years later,
Hmm.
and it is I think it's helpful in our relationship. So just building on what you said about communication and recognizing that, um, has been an important piece. And let me just add one last piece to communication, if you don't mind, and that is because you almost said it. We need to decide: do we need to be right, or do we want to be effective?
Effective.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
if we can
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
agree to be effective, we may say it a different way than we wanted to
Right.
say it.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, then we're on the same page. If
Hmm.
I need to
Absolutely.
be right, then I might say it harshly, or I might say it in a condescending way,
Hmm.
but then I've lost her, or she's
Hmm.
lost
Hmm.
me.
Hmm.
And,
Hmm.
so yeah, I was right, but did it benefit me? Or was I effective anymore? So I just
Absolutely.
think that's another piece.
And I
Uh,
think, like, for myself, I try to, and I'm still working on this, but I think, you know, and I say this to my husband, it's for both of us. Like, are we listening to respond or listening for understanding?
yeah,
Right.
right.
Because
Hmm.
if I listen to understand what it is he's trying to say to me, not necessarily for my opportunity to respond to what he's saying to me, then
Right,
that puts it all in a totally different light.
right, right,
Yeah,
right.
good listening skills are the key. Like I deal with customer service. I'm a patient advocate. So for us, we're always listening. We have to listen to understand where the breakdown happened. At the moment, if we're so focused on what our next response is, we can miss and we will miss the key factor of how things broke down.
Right.
So
Right.
listening is definitely the key. And for what you said earlier about making lists and also prioritizing things like what is it going to really, is it a life or death situation?
Right,
Is it
right.
something that is that major? Because even when we come together in disagreements outside of even to-do lists, a disagreement, because sometimes people feel like, do I need to be right?
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
the most important thing. Do I
Hmm.
Hmm.
really need to be right in this situation? Is it okay for me to take the step back and allow
Hmm.
my partner, the person who I say I love, to
Right.
take the lead on something? Or do I need to be proven that my way is the right way? Whatever you say doesn't matter. You're not saying it right. So I think
Hmm.
both of those are so very key
Mm-hmm.
to being successful and having a balanced relationship, knowing
Absolutely.
that this person is very important to me, that I can take the step back, I can listen. And like you said, Pastor C, about men, I call it man explain. Like men will
Right.
want
I like
to
it.
man explain things to us or tell us how we need to do something.
I
And that's
love
not
it.
really what I wanted. I
I
kind of
love
just
it.
wanted you to listen.
Right,
Like
right,
I know
right,
what I need to do.
Man
I'm just
explain.
venting my frustration,
right,
so I always be like, oh, so we're getting
right.
ready to do the man explain. I
I
didn't
love it.
realize that.
I love
That's
that.
good.
Man explain. I love it.
I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to go
Hmm.
back. You had one more question. You asked the question about what else do we need to know about balancing and those kind of things. Um, I think, for instance, if we know our purpose and if we're operating in our purpose, then that will lead us as well. And let me give you an
Mm,
example. As Babe mentioned, I wrote a book, and but what she didn't mention is it took me 4 years to write this book.
mm,
And I knew that this was something I believe God told me to do. I didn't just decide I wanted to be an author or
Mhm.
anything like that. I believe God gave me this vision to write this book, and a whole bunch of things came up in the meantime. I chose to do other things in the meantime, and a lot of stuff that needed to be done, right? But here's the thing, my purpose didn't go away. The purpose of
Mhm.
the book did not go away just because I didn't feel like doing it, or I wasn't ready to do it, or I wasn't ready to put the work in, or I had other things that were important. My purpose didn't go away. And it wasn't until I actually completed the book that then I didn't need to put the effort and energy into that part of writing the book
Mhm.
because I fulfilled the purpose. So I say all that to say that sometimes what we need to be working on is to help fulfill our purpose. And I'm not saying our purpose is just the one destination in life, but we have different purposes as we go through life. And for me, that was one of the things that was a part of my purpose. And my
hmm
wife was very instrumental because she would say,
How does it feel to be disobedient? I would say, oh, how does it feel to be disobedient and not doing what you're supposed to be doing?
I love it.
Not obeying the
Wow.
law. How does that feel?
yeah, so it didn't
Wow.
feel very great, right? But eventually I did get the book done. But she helped me, she encouraged me, she believed in me that this was something that I needed to do. And she saw it also. She didn't ever give me the impression that he just wants to write a book because other people write a book. She knew me and knew that that was the furthest thing from my mind. So she
Hmm.
helped me in my purpose. And whenever I said, baby, I need to spend X number of hours this week working on the book, she supported that. She never
Mhm.
ever in the 4 years it took me to write this book, and it's not a 600-page book, right? Uh, but she never, when I said, babe, I need to work on my book this week, and I want to put
Hmm.
this many
Hmm.
hours, she always supported. So that's another way to keep balance and harmony in the relationship when you can see your mate's purpose or you can see your purpose and you want to help them to reach their purpose. Because one of my other jobs is to help her fulfill her purpose and dreams. And her job is to help me fulfill my purpose and dreams. So,
Mhm.
there may be things like, okay, well, maybe this season, I won't go on a golf trip or something like that so that I can help fulfill her purpose and her dreams. So,
Mhm.
and I feel good, if that's the decision, that's not the decision. But if I, this was,
He's going on the golf trip.
I
I
love
never,
it. I love it.
so I just wanted to, I think we are people that God has something he wants us to do and that, that we'll be good at and that he wants me to do it. He wants you to
Hmm.
do it. He wants her to
Hmm.
do it. And
Mhm.
so if we're operating in our purpose, and if we love each other, then should not be times when I don't have time for her to be in her purpose
Right,
or I don't value her operating in her purpose. So
right.
I think that helps a little bit also to balance things that, you know, there's some things that may have to go off the list as my wife said, because that's not a main thing for this moment.
Mm.
Yes.
I had to pin that, Pastor, when you said that if we know our purpose and walk in our purpose, our life will be balanced. That
Absolutely.
was good. That was
Amen.
good.
Amen.
So I had to put that in the chat just
Amen.
in case
Mhm.
anybody missed what Pastor C said, because that was giving all life,
Good.
And
because
I
that's
Good.
love
really going to do it.
and
Go
I
Good.
ahead.
love that what you said, Pastor C, about like, there it doesn't have to be just one purpose. Like
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
can have multiple things that are the purpose
Yeah.
for your life that can be true at the same time. And
Hmm.
Right,
so
right.
Mhm.
and so I really appreciate that. And I think, like, I love just the example that you guys give in supporting each other and encouraging one another, and even sometimes, holding each other accountable when it's
Absolutely.
appropriate,
That's
because I think
important.
that that's important. And so I appreciate so much that you guys share that, because when you, like, for myself, being newly married and I'm 50 years old, that's a thing. You 50 years old and you've been doing things the way you want to do it when you want to
Right,
do it.
right.
And I think Kim and I had conversations about this prior to me getting married, that I never doubted, being able to be the wife that God called me to be. But what
Hmm.
I would doubt, or not even doubt, but sometimes have a concern for, is because when you're doing things your own way for so long, not that I wouldn't consider my husband's feelings or thoughts on something, but I love to travel. So my friends would say, "Hey, you want to go to Chicago?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, let's go." And then I'd be like, "Wait a minute, I probably need to ask a couple questions first."
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? And so it's an adjustment, but I
Sure.
think it's important for me even to understand it's an adjustment for both of us, not just me.
Right.
So just
And your
like,
friends.
let me tell you, Pastor Yo, because now Kim, she loves Mr. Barry and he loves his sister. Kim said, "Well, I know you married and stuff and all now, so we just have to be more strategic, and we plan our girls'
Right.
trips and stuff, and we just do like maybe 2 or 3 a year." And he's like, "Hold on a minute, now how many?"
How many? How many?
I'm
Only
all for the
two.
girls' trip, but hold on now, how many we talking here? But
Mhm.
so it is an adjustment. I thank God I have friends who, married or not, are
Hmm.
understanding of that
Hmm.
adjustment too.
Right. Good.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
absolutely, because it is an adjustment.
I'm
Mhm.
sure.
Because that was my, me and her, we would hit
We
the
was
road.
traveling, okay, in
I,
a
I would be,
heartbeat.
yes, or I'll call her and be like, "What you doing?"
Hmm.
Oh, nothing. Oh, okay. I'm gonna come on up to Detroit.
Right.
But
Right.
now I have to be more conscious that
Right.
she has her
Right.
God sent boo,
Right.
so I can't just do it on a whim. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But then once, because they get ready to get their house and all, so I'm sure it's gonna be a room for me. So
You so funny. There's a couple little girls from my church who spend the night with me sometimes, and they told him that they weren't leaving the last time they came. They said they were staying forever, and he looked at me and he said, "Well, I think maybe we're gonna need a bigger." What did he say? We need to get a bigger house. And one of the young ladies says, they call him Uncle Wan Wan, and she says, "Uncle Wan Wan, you need to get a bigger house." And I started laughing. He said, "I need to get a bigger house." I said, "Well, whose money we gonna use to buy this house?" And she said, "Uncle Wan Wan."
Uncle
I
Juan.
said, "Whose money we gonna use to pay the bills in this house?" She said,
Uncle
"Uncle Wan
Juan.
Wan."
Oh
And
my
he looked at
God.
her. He said, "Well, what is Auntie Tanya gonna do?" She said, "Take care of the kids." He he
I
told their
love it.
parents. He said, "My wife can't hang out with y'all kids no more."
I love it. I love
They
it.
think so. If we get it, so I don't know, Kim. You might have to get in line for the extra bedroom, because
we
them
can
babies
tussle
seem like
for
they
it. We can
claiming it
tussle
already.
for it. Nah, we can. I like the kids. I can sleep with the kids. Because I'm not taking them home with me, so it's fine.
Mhm.
But I so appreciate you guys.
Absolutely.
I always, Pastor Yo knows, I always say I just love y'all's
Thank
love.
you.
Thank you
Thank
So
so
you
much.
so
I
much.
appreciate y'all sharing with us.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Do you have any lasting thoughts that you wanted to leave us with?
I think one of the things I could say, and I think y'all kind of segued right into it, is when we add in relationships, let's treat each other like we treat our friends,
Mm-hmm.
because you and you and Tanya have a ideal example of what good friends are to each other, and how you make adjustments, and how you course correct, or how you look at it a different way. Well, maybe we can look at it this way, and that friends keep each other accountable,
Right,
all
right.
those things. So I would, if there would be a takeaway from this broadcast, one of them would be treat each other like you treat your friends, and
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
think it'll be successful. I think
Mhm.
it'll be successful, and certainly. Balance it's not always possible, but it is
Mm-hmm.
at some
Mm-hmm.
point. So, but I think that's all I have. But I sure appreciate y'all of allowing us to be on your broadcast, and sharing your space with us, because you know a whole bunch of people that you could have done that with. So we appreciate you both. Thank you so much for sharing your space with us.
Thank you
Thank
so much. We
you.
enjoyed it. Really, thank you for having us on.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
we're not gonna forget, as we making these adjustments and considerations, that we owe a visit to you guys
I'm
too. So
waiting. I'm
so
Listen,
waiting.
we didn't
listen.
forget about that. Just
I,
want to make
I'm
sure
waiting.
y'all know.
And
We
Kim,
coming. I've
yeah,
been trying to come forever, and then
yeah.
COVID knocked us out the box,
Yeah,
and
but
then
now things are
it's
things are
opening
opening
back
up
up.
down here in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
Things are opening up. So y'all come on, one at a time, or both, or all three. Everybody.
Y'all come on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I heard that it's an experience being
It
with the
is.
Carols.
Mhm.
So,
Yes, it is.
well, I
Y'all,
definitely want to
we
give you
promise.
guys. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We promise that once you come once, you'll be putting us on your calendar of your growth trip. We can get on at least a yearly a visit trip.
Visit, yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't want this time to go by without giving you an opportunity to share about your church, your ministries, and any events, or even Pastor C. I know you spoke about your book. I'm not sure if this is out published yet, but please share with the audience how they can connect with you and all the things that's going on with the Carols.
Okay, well, thank you so much again. I'm Yolanda Carroll. I'm Yolanda K. Carroll on all social media outlets. My coaching business, you can reach me through mymentor.life /Yolanda Carroll. And then he and I, you can reach us together under SIFT, our SIFT Facebook page, CIFT. And then I would like to encourage my husband, who is a published author, with his website, and the book is ready. It is self-published, so we have them signed and ready to go, to be willing to share with uh, men and women in your life. It has a kind of a sports twist to it, but you do not have to be a sports enthusiast to
Hmm.
enjoy the book. So you want to tell them the name of the
The
book
name of the
and
book
your website?
is The Ball, and just little life lessons using sports analogies. And you know, as my wife says, you don't have to know the sport real well to know the lesson in each chapter. So, would love to, if people would like to get the book, you can go to corneliuscarroll.com, and you can order the book there. And also, there's a what's the online book? The ebook. You can do the
Okay.
ebook as well. And but we'd love for you to do that and check it out.
In
So
our church, it's Abundant Love Christian Center.
yep. So we pastor the Abundant Love Christian Center together,
Well
and our
balanced.
church just celebrated our 20-year anniversary this past
Awesome.
Sunday,
Glory to
and
God.
Awesome.
we
Look at
are
that.
so thankful for that. We're getting ready for Resurrection Sunday in
Hmm.
2 Sundays, and
We are open for live service
mhm.
and still virtual.
Yep. So please check us out, and you can find us on our webpage, Abundant Love Christian, Abundant Love, AbundantLoveCC.org, and you can see our services there. And so we'd love to have folks join us.
Amen. And do y'all have like a women's ministry and men's ministry?
Right. We do. He and his men's ministry is called Man to Man, and they meet virtually every other Monday night. And ours is Woman to Woman, woman the number two woman, and we meet virtually every other Wednesday night, and you can find us there on our Abundant Love Facebook page. And this has been the first month. For 2 years, we have been just broadcasting virtually because of pandemic. But again, now Houston is opened up. We had again amazing service, 20-year church anniversary, yeah, last Sunday. So now we're getting back into the business of getting folks saved and getting people back into
Man.
worshiping together. And
Hmm.
yeah, things are turning around down here in
Mhm.
Houston.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Awesome. I am so excited and delighted that you accepted my invitation. You
Well,
saying that it's
enjoy.
an
Let's
iron.
talk him.
Yeah.
Yes, I just really am blessed just to have you guys on this evening, and I know you didn't disappoint. I knew you wouldn't. That you would
Thank
drop
Thank
you.
some
God
you.
bless you.
pearls, and I know that the audience is blessed. Those that's watching live and those that will do the replay. So I just thank God for y'all being here tonight and really gave us an insight on you and your relationship and how you balance everything, and whether we're married or single, which we both represent. I'm single, Tanya's married, and we both pulled so many pearls out of what you said.
Great.
So
Thank
I
you.
just
Perfect.
like thank God for y'all being here. And please, people, just make sure that you like, subscribe, tell your
Right.
friends, share it on your page. This is Let's Just Talk with Kim and my wonderful co-host. Haven't forgotten about you, baby. Go ahead and tell the people all about you.
Well, you can find me on Facebook, Tanya Berry, on Instagram, and on Twitter. It is Meet Mrs. Berry. And I just am so glad to be a part of this and so happy to see you guys. I miss
Thank
your
you.
smiling face, Pastor Yo. So I'm glad to see you guys today. And I thank you so much for sharing and being so open. Um,
Hmm.
I try to remember everything. Any lesson I learn from people, I always try to remember and take it. So I appreciate your willingness to share. And I
Thank
just
Thank
you.
you.
thank God for you and pray you guys, that God continues to bless you and
Thank
keep
you
you.
so much.
Thank
All
you.
right. Well, meet us back here next Monday. We'll have another exciting episode at Let's Just Talk with Kim. See you next week.
Bye
All
bye.
right.
Bye.
Good
Good night,
night.
everybody.
Thank you.